Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here with the Spartan Rocketry Club, and we're going to dive right into more fin attachment here. So remember this, well, you can't see it, but the model that we're building, at least part of it here, notice it looks like a two-stager, but it isn't actually. So far we've spent most of the time working on this part right here. Now we're going to attach the fins to the top part. And this is going to be somewhat redundant if you just watched the previous part where I attached the fins to the bottom. Well, it's going to look a lot like that. Here are the fins. These are swept back. Here's the body tube, and I have already put the marks on it just like before. And I also marked off the half-inch marks where all the fins are going to attach. So the only thing that we need to do then, I guess, is just start attaching them. These obviously have an obvious front and back, unlike the trapezoidal ones on the previous or the lower part of this. So this should be somewhat less confusing, if confusing it is at all. And the other nice bit too is that because there's nothing attached to this part of the body tube, like a motor mount for instance, we can stand this one up just fine. The only question, I guess, is this going to be so swept back that the fins will reach past the end? And I suspect that it's at least going to be close. Either way, though, I have a glue bottle here. I'm going to use this. I'm going to put the tube right over top of it like so, and I'm going to use that for drying. This is a long tube, so honestly I'm kind of concerned that this might not be massive enough to hold things in place, but we'll go from there and see what's going on. Okay, so 2 layers of glue as per usual. Spread the second layer out, and then it is time to attach. Again, first one's always the easiest because you can have it lying right on the ground. I'm aligning the back end with the mark that I drew, and then I'm going to roll it forward. Okay. And then hold it for about 30 seconds, and I can see that yes, indeed, the swept back fins are going to be swept back past the end of the body tube. So, yeah, I'm not going to be able to stand this up on the grid. Well, I mean, I will, but it'll be standing on the ends of the fins rather than on the body tube, which is annoying. It won't affect putting it on my glue bottle there to dry, fortunately. Just a mild annoyance. Anyway, that should be enough setting. Clean that off, and then check my alignment. So it looks like it is centered pretty well on the tube, and it doesn't really look like it's straight up and down. That's okay. We'll just adjust it, nudge it a little bit. You know, I could be entirely wrong. You know, it might have been perfectly straight up and down. We don't really need to worry about it too much, but you know, the less adjustment we have to do later, the better. Okay, so rocket goes on the glue bottle. It's a little wobbly. That's okay. It looks stable enough, though. It's probably not going to fall over while I get the next fin ready. Same deal as always. The multiple tiered glue approach here does seem rather tedious, but ultimately it makes your life so much easier. It makes your life so much easier because the bond is stronger, you know, it sets up faster, for one thing. I mean, half of the glue has been on and is bonding to this wood before we even attach it to the tube. But this is the way to make the strongest joint as well. And I personally have not had a fin that where the glue was the weak spot quite some time. Now, I've certainly cracked fins, but it's not the glue. When the glue cracks, or when the fin cracks, it typically takes the glue along with it. So There we go. All right, let's spread it out again. Ooh, that's a lot. The more glue, you'd think that would make it stronger, but it just means it's going to take longer to set. Alright, now I could lay this flat still, I guess. I might as well. But just be careful. You can't roll it very far, and if you roll it too far, you're going to push the fin, and then that's probably going to fall off and defeat the entire purpose. Alright, so again lining up in the back, and then rolling it forward and pushing. I suspect because I always end up with a puddle of glue facing me and like nothing squirted out the side and toward the top of the frame here. I must not be putting them on quite straight. You know, I must have the, however I'm putting them on, I'm forcing the glue out toward me. I don't think that really matters, honestly. It's just like a idiosyncrasy of how I put the fins on. Anyway, this one, the surface area of the fin as it's attaching seems to be about the same as the trapezoidal ones on the previous rocket, part of the rocket that we were building. And you know, the amount of balsa seems to be about the same too. So, I mean, so far so good. This seems to be, ooh, I didn't feel like it was very set. Yeah, there's a lot of wobble there. Well, I may have spoken too soon. Let's hope that is far more set than I than I fear it is. All right, checking the alignment. Ooh, that's like really far off, I think. Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's really hard to tell until you start putting like 3 or 4 fins on, and then you can check the alignment. It's at least centered. I can see. Oh yeah, it's really far off. That's really far off from 90 degrees. I'm just looking down the barrel like this and looking at the angle between the 2 fins. It's still kind of a guess as to whether it's 90 degrees exactly or not, but that was really far off. So I've adjusted it. Hopefully I adjusted it pretty accurately. All right. The more fins you get on, the less stable this is too, unfortunately. So hopefully I won't do anything dumb like bump the table and, oops, that's not enough glue. There we go. Bump the table and jostle things. That would be unfortunate. Hopefully that does not happen. Sometimes too, by the way, today is a fairly mild day. My air conditioner is not running, but there are speak of the devil, just kicked on. Anyway, there are definitely times when I feel like the air conditioning itself can knock this over. So do be careful of that. If it were like 95 degrees out today, I might have turned it off entirely, at least up here in my room for, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, however long it takes to do this, just to avoid any incidents. Hopefully that will not be an issue today. Alright. Now I got a bubble. It popped. That's nice. Just make sure that you do have this spread uniformly. Bubbles would be bad. So try to make sure there is glue coverage everywhere. You don't want gaps. Okay. I think I'm going to put them on this way. So typically I just kind of, this was the second one, but I'm going to hold this one vertically down because I don't trust that glue yet. This one's been drying longer, so I trust that one more. I do need to hold this up in the air, obviously, and I'm going to try my best to line things up. Okay. And we'll hold this. It kind of shifted a little bit. This is definitely going to have to be adjusted. Alright, well, we'll see how badly it needs to be adjusted once the glue is set for about 30 seconds. Normally, you want to, any minor adjustments that you see absolutely need to be made. That's lovely. do them as quickly as you can before you start holding things in place, because if you do need to make serious adjustments, you know, you're kind of like resetting the clock when you move the pieces, any amount, but like if it's a serious amount, if it had to be moved like a quarter of an inch or more, then you're gonna have to count that 30 seconds all over again. All right. Let's see. It looks, I have the end line about right, but how am I doing lined up here? This is not quite centered. Try to shift that a little bit, and in the process, yeah, the back part I have dislodged. Well, that's annoying, but I think it needed it anyway. Yeah, let's just, there we go. Alright, so that looks better. I am not going to let this just sit just quite yet, though. I want to hold it for a little bit. And I'm putting pressure on it, too. I'm pushing down into the tube. This to just set a little bit longer since I had to make that adjustment. You know, as I said, if you have to move it a decent amount, or if I ended up kind of wiggling the back end there far more than I had intended, and that's going to reset the clock pretty much. All right, that looks really bad. Okay, well, let's make the adjustments while we can. This is the newest one, so I'm going to bring it down a little bit. Let's try to bring this in frame. So I'm going to bring this down a little bit. This one, that was number 2. That one needs to be pushed to my right a little bit, I think. Oh, and this is starting to flop. Okay. Well, at the risk of doing so much that the third fin falls off, I'm just going to let it sit for a little bit and check its alignment without messing with it too much. So I'm just staring down the barrel of this thing from above again. It looks, I mean, it looks better, but it is not perfect. You'll also notice too that there are enough fins on this now that it is fairly difficult for me to keep it, you know, to get it stable on my glue bottle here. The wind is, the air from the air conditioner is kind of making it flap around just a little bit as well, which is kind of annoying. Normally, of course, I would be putting glue on my last fin here and getting ready to go, but I want that to sit just a little bit longer, so I'll start doing it now. Hopefully the little extra bit of time will be a good investment. I don't know, this one should have been easier than the first fin to do, but it is proving to be a little bit more difficult. I'm not entirely sure why that is. Sometimes it just feels like how well the fins attach is a bit of a crapshoot. You know, there are definitely factors, like the thinner the fin, the harder it is to attach. The more surface area the fin has, should be easier to attach. The only real difference, I guess, because I think the surface area, the length at least, is pretty similar between the two sets of fins in this kit. The only major difference, though, is that the body tube that we're working on now has a smaller diameter, which would mean that the curvature of the tube is more significant. That might actually be a problem. You know, the flatter the surface you're trying to bond to, the easier you're going to have, getting it right. So it's entirely possible that the fact that we're working with a narrower tube is not helping matters, but I don't know. I don't think it's that big of an issue. I think it's just kind of luck of the draw here. Luck of the draw. That first segment of rocket that we worked on just wanted to be easier for whatever reason. All right. At the risk of having fins flop off here, I'm going to bring this down and I'm going to do my best to attach this final fin without having anything fall to the ground. So fingers crossed, but got it centered and pushing it down. Kind of slid there a little bit, but I think I got the back centered again. The front, I was holding pretty tightly at that point, so I'm happy with where the front is. The back seems okay at the moment. I have a feeling too when I was putting the other fins on, I had them slanted a bit toward me, which I can't see. Maybe you can better than I can, but that would be another part that's slightly more difficult on a narrower tube. Getting the angles right. Okay, I'm going to hold this a little bit longer. I do want the glue to be pretty well set because I feel pretty confident about this. I don't think I'm going to have to adjust this one, at least up and down, and I'm pretty sure I got the straight, I got the front, no, I have the fin on the line pretty well. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to have to rotate it left and right though a bit. I suspect that it is not particularly close to a 90-degree angle. By the way, in looking at this, there is a little bit of a deformation here in the tube. I hope that I didn't do that. I'm pushing down, right, and as I'm doing that, there's a pivot point here. Hopefully I'm not kind of damaging the tube in the process. All right, actually looking at this, I have it going the other direction. That's fun. So I was overcompensating. That looks it looks like it's on the line. It looks like it's in the right place. It looks closer to a 90-degree angle than it was, but it's still, I don't think it's all that close. It looks better. All right, now let's check the alignment, like the internal alignment of the fins. So how close are they to being 90 degrees with each other? So the top and the bottom, they look, and there's some work there that needed to be done. Looks pretty good. Rotating it here, this one is off by a bit, and that one needs to be adjusted ever so slightly. Alright, that's my initial pass at getting at least the fins lined up with each other to make a straight line. This doesn't feel right. That feels off by a bit. Part of the trick too is that if the tube is deformed for whatever reason, then the fins themselves are also going to be deformed. Alright, now, at the risk of things flopping off again, I'm going to check my alignment, and I'm going to use my grid lines. Now, I don't really like having the fins being on the ground here. They are pretty well set though, so hopefully nothing bad happens in the next 10 seconds or so as I'm checking. Now I'm looking down through the tube. There's a cross of grid lines right in the middle, and I'm just checking to see if the fins are indeed right on the yellow grid lines of my mat here. And they actually look quite good now. Just want to double check before I say this is good enough, but looks pretty good. Now I don't want it to dry like this. I am again going to put it on top of something. I'm going to put it on top of my, no, not that one. We'll go with this glue bottle that I've been using before. This wider spout seems to have a little bit more holding power. And see if it falls. That's pretty heavy. I really don't want it to fall. Alright, that looks pretty good. I can still see it flapping in the breeze though. I don't want to turn the air conditioner off. I'm not going to, but it is kind of my gut is telling me. Alright, there are a few more elements of the build that need to be done, but not in this video. We're getting close to the finishing steps. Very exciting. So, thanks for watching. I will see you next time.